How's it going, folks? Jack here. So I was here sorting through some files and links, trying to find a kind of like detail to substantiate a statement that I made in a Kris reaction video when I got this notification from Mudahar's channel, which I first and foremost thought that he was going to be covering something on perhaps just a character assassination of a person that I have briefly heard about that often has been the target of the ongoing culture war. But as it turns out, it was way worse, and it sent me down a rabbit hole that I really did not want to talk about because it's rather disgusting. The problem, however, is that because I had made a video on good old Herschel this month, the shit flinging that is ongoing on the internet sort of requires that you also talk about this. What? I'll explain in a bit, but first, sorry if this video feels a little bit disjointed. This is most likely just going to be a rant because I actually do feel like there are things to be talked about here. But first, let me preface with this. Can't we just leave kids the fuck alone? Like, what the hell is going on? Unlike the extremely difficult and damn near impossible challenge that is to ask a person to stop mid-air as they are being prompted with the magical words of English or Spanish, is it really that hard as an adult to not have inappropriate conversation, relationships with minors? It is baffling, but let me try to compose myself here and stay on target. Because it seems as if since the beginning of 2024, Kendrick Lamar must have cast a domain expansion, putting us all in a weird stasis where we all will just hear the song Not Like Us play on repeat as it has become the anthem of the year. For on damn near a monthly basis, there's been a new person that came forth as being a bloody predator. And it is so bad to the point where I feel like whenever a person just reaches a certain number of followers, they should just be added to Chris Hansen's list of potential offenders to save us all from the disappointment, the paperwork, or the endless amount of doom scrolling that is required for us to figure out what the hell actually happened. Because in the past in Hollywood, we will have the typical story that will crush your soul, unfortunately as it sounds. Like, are you a fan of The Usual Suspect or Baby Driver? Well, here's learning that Kevin Spacey is an absolute monster, so you have to reevaluate your preferences in movies. Are you, in this here decade, somehow still a fan of Diddy or Drake? Oh, sorry, R&B rapper formerly known as Drake, more usually known now as BBL Drizzy? Well, look at them far in the distance sailing along the Predator Canal. And on the platform where you're currently watching this video, despite the many examples in the past, one would think that being a millionaire, having a plethora of adoring fans, being quite dashing yourself because what the hell, look at this moustache, being above average tall and having an equally beautiful partner would be enough for people. But apparently not, because when the soundtrack to your life isn't sounding quite right, you have to strike a new chord, and it's apparently a minor. Because recently, the more popular of such cases, yes, there have been surprisingly many, has been that of Dr. Disrespect the Age of Consent, who had inappropriate conversation with a minor. Usually when this type of things happen, there are certain responses that the offenders themselves take. One is to completely deny what has been alleged and what they quite literally have done. And that despite being caught, technically, in 1080p, not just once, but twice. There are the ukulele apologists who will burst out in a song and blame it on internet toxicity somehow. There are the interpretive dancers. There are those who make other people dance to their music instead of actually admitting what they've done. And there are of course those who come forth and do admit their faults after years of investigations, and of course will try to gaslight people into believing that this is all due to cancel culture. That last one was the one which Dr. Disrespect went with as he went on his vacation to heal or something. But in the meantime, a character that was actually involved in the conversation regarding his behavior has now been ousted as being too far gone. I'm of course talking about Chris Tyson of the Mr. Beast crew. Now, this is a person that I know barely anything about, despite the fact that last year, I think it was around that time, that she had made a transition into a woman. And there was a lot of discussion about that, people turning that for some reason into a political matter, and being mad at Mr. Beast and this and that, and Jimmy coming forth to defend his friend. She was featured on Anthony Padilla when she had to clarify the whole thing about why she made this choice. And throughout the month or so, she would pop up here and there as being the target of many things. Discussions about how she was a parent herself and taking care of her kids, which she seems to have displayed quite a lot of time. So that was my angle into this. That's what I thought was happening, but apparently not. Now, as I've mentioned, when a person that is relatively popular tends to do a transition like that today, people have a tendency of going back and trying to investigate the past. I don't know why to do that, but it's the internet. The internet is going to do some wild stuff. And this time, however, the thing that they unnerved about them was quite bad, like very terrible. And it has all to do with a certain internet boogeyman called Shadman. Shadman, if you do not know the character, is quite infamous for his art. He's a non-safe for work artist. Let's use the right word here, hentai artist, where he is especially infamous for his rendition of a multitude of characters into lollies. Now, let me clarify one thing. Calling the work that Shadman does lollification is underselling it. I remember last year reacting to a video by Scamboli Reviews on how he, and by that myself, did not quite understand the whole fab about VTubers, at least some of them, because they do also borrow the lolly aesthetics, which, if you do not know, is this like, I guess, the aesthetic of a younger, perhaps minor looking character that is apparently 1,000 or so years old. Anime does employ that quite a bit. It's not quite a thing that I understand. Some people did come to that video with justification of how it is all about, like how cute they are and how they want to protect the character and stuff. You can do that with an adult person as well. And no, before somebody points it out, yes, I know that the term is not necessarily sexual, but like many words that we're using colloquially in today's lingo, they have lost their meaning. And given the context that we have right now, it is what it is. But back to Shadman. The stuff that he does is not lollies. It's quite literally CP. This is stuff that he has done quite a lot of time, not just rendition of like famous cartoon or anime characters, but quite literally real life people, including, I think the one recently that I saw in the thread there was the daughter of Kimstar. I do not carry much sympathy for the guy, but that is fucking disgusting. The other one famously was X23, which I remembered because the latest trailer for the Deadpool movie just showed up. And frankly, I do not know if it was the proliferation of like the memes that surround the Shadman that you may have seen, the SpongeBob one of like Shadman no, Shadman yes. That made the severity of the stuff that he drew to be lessened. But to cut it short, Shadman's art is extremely disturbing. And the fact that I just even mentioned CP and a person even being associated with that just makes everything a million times worse. This is, however, the situation that Chris Tyson finds herself in, as all footage of her previous streams and photos and tweets have been dug up, showing her showcasing Shadman art quite explicitly. In one Mr. Beast video, a piece of Shadman's art is seen hanging in the room where the crew, as well as Kris and Jimmy, are sitting there looking at it. And it goes from like extremely disturbing to just so much worse. Because in one of Chris's old stream, he accidentally happened to display Shadman's website, wherein, remember again, he explicitly displays CP art to people. And I don't understand. How do you do that? Like, I remember once for like comedic purposes where I started off a video by searching something on Rule 34 to kind of emulate the stuff that they would do on demo disc, fully blurred of course, but never ever have I entered a site like that by freaking mistake. That makes no sense. And unfortunately for Kris, evidence just kept piling up. A 2017 tweet showed Kris replying to a post featuring the two main characters of Gravity Falls kissing, and mind you, they are underage, wherein he replied, "They're twins, so at that point it's just masturbation, right?" Like, I don't understand how a person who at this point, mind you, is a fully grown adult, okay, 20 plus, can write something like that without feeling just a single ounce of shame. Or even worse, this other tweet that he made in 2022 that I will not even read. This is too much for me, but what do you even say about this? And look, I'm not here to police people's behavior, okay? We have a certain freedom of speech, expression, all that shit. But like, if you have to act freaky, can't you just, to a certain degree, keep it to yourself? And especially when you are in this position of power, which you are in, which is something that I still do not understand that YouTubers have a difficulty understanding once they have an impressionable audience, that you are going inevitably to push these things on your audience, which Kris did by showcasing these things on stream on Mr. Beast's followers, because obviously there's going to be some spillage from Jimmy's audience from the main Mr. Beast channel that are going to come over to Kris's. And when you are doing streams and showing stuff like that to an impressionable audience, can you imagine just what is going to happen when you're showing that kind of stuff to kids at such a young age? Well, I can save you the imagination because there was an attempt with private DMs leaked of Kris having conversation with a 14-year-old wherein they expressed their love for this type of art, which was actually quite classified as an addiction. To which I'm not gonna dive further into that rabbit hole, it gets furthermore disgusting. There is a YouTuber that about a month ago did the paperwork literally and started exposing this thing because it is very concerning. So if you're interested in knowing more of the details about that, I highly recommend that you check the video. I will link it in the description below. Yet one subject that I would like to touch on is the responses and the attitude that some people have when either allegation and straight up proof about this type of behavior is brought forth. Because a lot of it is equally as disturbing, because with the Kris situation here, there were people who were starting to blame it on cancel culture once more, and the fact that we apparently can no longer make edgy jokes.
But it's gotten to the point where people started digging into like old tweets of theirs and stuff like that to find some reason to cancel them. And the latest thing is that apparently Chris Tyson is a pedophile because he made some edgy jokes about lolly and kids.
My guy, showing CP is not an edgy joke. Telling something like,
"Looks like you're a gotcha player at heart."
Is that because of my brain damage?
No, it's because you go after children.
It's a funny joke that will make me giggle. Whatever the f it is that Kris displayed there does not make me laugh.
I gotta be honest, they're not the kind of jokes that I personally would make, but we've literally gotten to the point where making edgy jokes makes you a pedophile. I kid you not, that's how low the bar for pedophilia has become.
And considering that to be the low bar is something that should get your computer inspected. Seriously. And like frankly, I do not understand how people don't have a modicum amount of sense to process the word that they are saying when they are acting up this way. In the same way that some were trying to defend what Dr. Disrespect was doing in his messaging, acting as if the age of consent was just a target that had to be hit. Like, what the hell? Like, a person does something that is first by law criminal, so that's one thing, and secondary, morally speaking, is abhorrent. How do we even start trying to make excuses for this? And also, there's the angle of people trying, as always, because this is the freaking state of things now, trying to make it into a political issue. It is really that hard to just look at things in an objective manner, that two individuals did something that was abhorrent and keep it at that. There was the whole thing with the Nick Merck situation some weeks ago, or a month by now, regarding the Dr. Disrespect situation, because he was advocating for his friend. And so was Kris brought into the picture as being this trans individual who is playing make-believe as a woman now. Like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? You have Kris now who did something that was bad. It is fucking bad. Both are equally as disgusting. They should not in any way whatsoever share any of the weird shit to children. That's all that there is to it. Because right now you have the likes of freaking Coco over there who is coming forth and acting as if he is holier than thou. Because this guy, the very guy who, like we covered in the previous video with Shoe on Head, is ping-ponging all the time on different values of life, who defended the movie Cuties, defended the doctor that disrespects the age of consent, and could not even answer a simple question regarding said age of consent.
If you want to be consistent, you don't think anything updates, just tell us what you think it should be.
I think it should be past at a developed age, Dustin.
What is a developed age? If you had to set a law for it, what would you set it? What would you set it about?
It's a developed age.
See how you want to answer the question? You see how he's going to yap and not answer the question? I'm going to ask the same thing when you're done. Go ahead.
I just answered the question. I just told you.
What was the age?
I just told you at a developed age.
Sneeko thinks you should be able to 9-year-olds. That's what Sneeko thinks, and he won't answer that question honestly.
This person is coming forth to turn this whole thing into a gender war, and people are jumping onto that. What the f***, man? How about you care about this poor guy who most likely had been groomed for some time, and just look at it objectively in that manner? Okay, I've been talking about this for a bit too long, but let me cut off on the last point here. The last one is in the weird kind of animalistic way that we are treating sometimes these type of things like blood sport. Because there was this tweet from Sneeko once more, who tried to make it sound as if Charlie, who apparently if he doesn't cover something for like a fraction of a second, he has fallen off, or apparently is defending the person who proliferated the heinous act, to make it sound as if Charlie was defending Kris. It is weird. Like, for example, this is not a case like that of Cody Ko, whom, if you do not know the guy, at least you would know the meme of him and Noel Miller.
Oh! Ew, dude! What the fuck?
Who forced himself on Tana Mojo when he was, I think, 25 and she 17, and had the whole story being covered up by some of his friends, him deleting comments and stuff like that. We are not talking about this type of situation, but like refocusing on my point here. Just because a content creator has not covered something on the very same day that the news came forth, how the hell does that mean that they are defending a person in question here? There are objective things to be seen here that are absolutely disturbing, and that is what should be focused on. Not whether or not a content creator spread the news at the exact time that you wanted it to be done and in the style that you wanted it to be done. It's like saying that if Mr. Beast does something, don't you think that the whole wide of the YouTube community is not going to know about it? Of course they will. And by default also, if Kris does something, which to my knowledge they decided to leave the team, so for now at least, perhaps she's been fired, whatever. I only care about them actually explaining themselves, but if she did something, people will know, it would have been covered. Like, people need to chill out when it comes to that. But yeah, it is really disturbing that YouTubers do not understand the power that they have over their audiences. Like, kids are extremely malleable, and if you are going to be interacting with a child, which please, for the sake of the boogeyman called Kendrick, do not do it. You would best be on your best behavior and make damn sure that you are treating them in the best way possible. And if you know in your heart of hearts that you cannot do that, then don't interact with them. I'm sorry, this is the dad aspect of me that is showing up right now, that is kind of making me angry when I'm reflecting about this whole thing. But this has been my rant about this whole thing. I'm just gonna stop here. Let me know your thought about them in the comment section below. And yeah, that's it. See ya.